Hi guys, welcome back to Adventurous Ukuleles. Today we're not doing a live stream, as you can tell, but I want to talk about some techniques for the ukulele that you can be practicing. For every 10 ukulele players I meet, 10 of them can play chords. It's easy to play a chord on the ukulele. That doesn't rhyme, I need to work on my poetry there. But of those 10 people, only one of them can play a scale. And of those one people that can play a scale, for every 10 of those people I meet, only one of those can play a scale that isn't C major. That's C major. What about D major? Scales are not very well known on the ukulele. Why? All of the melodies and the tunes that we know are based on scales. The harmony that's played underneath those tunes is chords. And the ukulele is often used as a chord instrument, but it can play melodies too. So how can we get used to playing melodies? Well, musicians all over the world have spent hours and hours and hours learning scales so that their fingers or their toes or their mouth shape or whatever they use to play their instrument is used to a sequence of notes that they are familiar with, and they can rearrange in different ways to make a tune. There are hundreds and thousands and millions, billions perhaps, different tunes out there. But Western music, the music we've all grown up with if you live in Europe or the US, is all based around the major scale. It's the most important scale in Western harmony. There are plenty of other scales out there, but the major scale is where it all starts. So let's make you guys into the top 10% and maybe even the top 1% of ukulele players in the world by helping you make friends with the major scale. Level 1. What is the major scale? Well, even if you don't know, you can tell me what it is, I reckon you would recognise it. If I sing Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do, you think, what on earth is he singing about? Well, I'm singing Sol, Fa notation. And even if you don't recognise Do, Re, Mi, you'll recognise that the melody that I've just sung sounds familiar. And you probably, more likely than not, will have heard someone singing Do, a deer, a female deer. It's from The Sound of Music. It's a very well-known song. They use also that sol-fa notation, where each note of the major scale is labelled with a sound. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. 8 notes there, but the first one was do and the last one was do as well. So there's only 7 different notes. That is the major scale. It sounds very familiar to your ear because all the songs that you like to listen to, most of them anyway, is based on this same scale. And what makes that scale sound unique and sound distinctive and sound like it should is the gaps between the notes. So it's easy to show this on a piano. Let's have a quick look at the piano. The C major scale on a piano is easy to play. C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. All the white notes from C to C, none of the black notes. That means we can play the major scale as almost the first thing we play on a piano keyboard. Let's have a look at the same scale on a ukulele. If I start on a C, the first note is 2 semitones higher, or 1 whole tone. That's 2 frets on the ukulele. The next one is also another tone higher. Then the one after that is only a semitone higher, then a tone, then another tone, then another tone, and then finally a semitone, which brings us back to an octave above the note we started from. Let's hear those in sequence. That matches our Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. Easy enough to play once we know the intervals between the notes, but it's awkward on the ukulele playing it on one string. I'm moving my hand a long way up the neck, and I can't play it very fast. Not very accurately anyway. We can play that scale without moving our hand all the way down the neck, just using your fingers. Here it is. That is our Do, Re, Mi, C major scale. How do we play that? Let's have a look. This is level 1. Here is how you play it. Start with the open C string. Then second fret on the same string, use your second finger for this. And then an open E. First fret on the E, use your first finger. Third fret on the E, use your third finger. Open A string. Second fret on the A string, use your second finger. And then finally, third fret on the A string, use your third finger. That is our octave, the same note we started from. C there and a C there. All together it sounds like this. Check out the chart on the screen and you can see the shape that your fingers make when you're playing that scale. Do that a few times and get your fingers used to the positions they're playing in, and notice that when you play the first fret, it's your first finger that should be playing it. When you play the second fret, second finger, third fret, third finger. And if we were to play any fourth fret notes, which we aren't in this case, we'd use our fourth finger, the little finger. One finger per fret. Very important rule for playing melodies on any fretted instrument. That is level 1, our C major scale. On to level 2. Level 2, why do we just play the C major scale? If I sing a do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but I start on a different note, do, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, the gaps between the notes are identical, but I didn't start in the same place. So the intervals are the same, but the absolute pitches are different. So if we start on a D, but use the same gaps between the notes, a tone, a semitone, a tone, a tone, 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 semitone, then we get another major scale, but this time it's a D major scale because I started on a D note. If we did that on the piano, you'd have to use some black notes in there. But on the ukulele or the guitar, on a fretted instrument, you can see that the gaps remain exactly the same. We have to remember our tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone intervals, but that is a major scale, so as long as we start it and use the same intervals, it will sound correct. But we can't do that as easily with the open strings of the ukulele, so how do we play a D major scale? How do we change the key of the scale? Start with a D, which is the second fret on the C string. I'm going to use your first finger for this. We've shifted our hand position away from the first position where the first finger does the first fret, and I'm moving to position 2 where my first finger plays the second fret, but I'm not going to move my hand after this. So first finger, second fret, C string. Now your third finger on the fourth fret of the C string. Move over to the E string, first finger on the second fret. Second finger, third fret. Fourth finger, fifth fret. Move over to the A string, first finger, second fret. Third finger, fourth fret. And then little finger, fifth fret. There is our D major scale without moving my hand. Notice my thumb stays in the same place on the back of the uke. One finger per fret. Now it's worth pointing out that the one finger per fret rule is a guideline rather than a rule. You can break it if you're necessary, and the uke is such a small instrument that you could easily reach 4 frets without using your fourth finger. So if it's easier for you, you can of course use your ring finger for that third fret up from where you started. That's not a problem at all if your little finger doesn't like doing what it's told. So this is the same scale as level 1. But there are no open notes. We've got a completely fretted scale, which means we can do this anywhere on the fretboard. We did that on D, but let's pick a note. Let's say this note. This is an F. There's an F major scale. Or let's go down 1 from an F. That means an E. So we can now play any major scale as long as we know what note we're starting on, and we can work that out from C, C sharp, D, E flat, E, F, F sharp, G. I had to think about that. The names of the notes aren't entirely logical. There are some notes that don't have sharps or flats between them. That's a subject for another video, but have a look at a piano keyboard and you'll see that the E and the F on the piano don't have a black note between them. So one semitone above an E is actually an F and not an E sharp, although you technically could call it an E sharp, but we don't very often. But as long as we know the name of the note that we start on, that scale pattern, as shown in the chart, will enable you to play a major scale. Things to note on this: make sure you use as small movements of fingers as possible. If your fingers are dancing all over the place, particularly the ones that aren't playing the note, if they're walking away and going on holiday, then you're going to have trouble getting back to the right place. There's a lot of extra work going on there. Try and keep the movements of your fingers as small as possible. Be as efficient as you can. Have the finger almost ready to go down, and don't move it too far away when it comes off. Try and make the gaps between the notes as short as possible. So I don't want anyone to hear, unless I want to hear that, but I don't yet. There's lots. It's very broken. I want to put one finger down, put the next finger down, and then take the previous finger off. Make that scale as smooth as possible. That is level 2, playing that same major scale in any key. Ready for level 3. Level 3 of our making friends with the major scale is to make the scale itself rhythmic. Sometimes we play a scale fast, sometimes we play it slowly. It's easier to play it slowly though, but the faster we can play it, the more our fingers will be moving to the right place without having to think about exactly which note we're playing. So let's introduce the concept called alternate picking. When I am picking my scale, let's use the F major scale for starting on the 5th fret with the first finger. I'm plucking upwards with my first finger for each note. But I can equally well pluck downwards and use a downstroke. Doesn't sound quite as nice. When I'm picking an individual note, I generally pick upwards with a finger or downwards with a thumb, with a finger style arrangement. However, if I support my finger with my thumb as if I'm holding a pick or a plectrum, then I get a bit of a stronger attack with it, and I can use the back of my nail and use downstrokes and upstrokes with the same finger. I can play quite quickly. So your next level in is to use alternate picking. I don't have to come back past the string to pick the next downstroke. I can pick on the way back. You could even use a pick. You don't have to, but we do play with a pick a little bit more often on a ukulele when we're playing melodies. You can hear it sounds a lot louder, there's a lot more attack to the sound. It can really help you cut through what is quite a quiet instrument with a nice loud melody line. So alternate picking will enable us to play more rhythmically and possibly faster. But how do we know if we're playing rhythmically? Well, this is where we need another tool, and I'm going to use a metronome. So I've got one installed on my phone. It's called Simple Metronome. It does what it says on the tin. It's a simple metronome. A metronome gives us a steady beat, and you can set it to a number of beats per minute, and it always keeps the same speed or same tempo. Mine's set to 65 beats per minute. It's a little bit faster than 1 a second. 60 would be 1 a second. And I want to try and synchronize my playing to the clicks. Now, this isn't very easy to do if you've not done it before. I want to make sure each of my notes lands exactly when the click happens. 1, 2, 3, 4. I was slightly ahead on 1 or 2 of those. Be as accurate as you can here. It's difficult to do really, really well. But you can see that's fairly slow. I can't really tell if my picking is efficient or my playing is efficient because it's so slow. Let's try playing 2 notes per beat. And now I'm going to use my alternate picking. Down, up, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Let's try it with a pick. Down, up, 3 and 4 and down, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And emphasizing the downs, which landing on the strong clicks there. So I want to emphasize where those clicks land to make sure they're exactly in time with the click. Here we go. 3 and 4 and emphasize, emphasize. We could have done 3 strokes per beat, but that's not an even number, so our alternate picking suffers a bit. It would sound like this: 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2. Okay, how about 4? Can we do 4 clicks per beat? We count that by saying 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E, and again emphasizing where those clicks land every other downstroke. 3 and 4E and a. Certainly I would say this is easier with a pick to do this alternate picking, but you can use your fingers. Okay, let's stop the annoying click for a moment. We can divide that metronome pulse into all sorts of different divisions, and playing in sync with that metronome gives us an external reference. It ensures that our playing is accurate according to something that doesn't get fooled by whether something is complex or fast or slow. So use that external reference, but the problem with the metronome is it doesn't sound very good, and it sounds quite annoying, and nobody really likes playing with a metronome. So let's not use a metronome. Let's play with another external reference source. Let's find a drummer. Haven't got a drummer. We're in lockdown. Thankfully, I've got an app on my phone that does some drum loops. It's called Loops, but there are loads of these ones available. There's a link in the description to this one if you're on Android. But this means I've got a drummer that can play a tempo now. This one is about 69. Let's put it down to 65, same as before. It's not that great quality, but it's a lot more interesting than listening to a metronome. Let's try our exercises again. Two notes per beat. Four notes per beat. Let's try 3. A little bit trickier on the 3. Let's stop that. So playing with a drum loop is much more fun than playing with a metronome. And many people find it easier because the drummer is doing things in between the strong pulses. That means it's a little bit easier for you to follow if you're not used to hearing that pulse when the next pulse is coming. You've got a bit more information there to predict when the next strong beat's going to land on. So find yourself some drum loops to play along with. Make sure your playing is matching the beat of the drummer, and what you're doing then is essentially playing with a band. It's an incredibly important skill for musicians to do. Play with other people. Even this isn't really a person, it's still better than playing completely by yourself. It's easy to get into very bad rhythmic habits when you're playing completely by yourself. When you put a metronome on and play something difficult, you will feel that it speeds up when you get to the hard bit, and it slows down when you get to the easy bit. Your brain processes things in a different way when it's doing complicated things or when it's doing easy things. But the metronome is always consistent. It will enable you to get good habits of keeping in time. You can use it to highlight bits of the scale that you're not very good at. Some bits will be easy, but the bits you can't keep up with the metronome, those are the bits to practice. We were just beginning there at the end to have a bit of fun, play something that sounded a bit cooler, and we can pick some bluesy shuffles. It's suddenly starting to sound like music. So that brings us to level 4. Level 4. We've got to make this sound like music. Scales are boring. Nobody likes scales. Scales by themselves sound rubbish. So make them sound better. Play it like you're playing music. Use some phrasing. Change the rhythm of the notes. We could make all the notes short. I'm using a bit of palm muting there to give them a sort of staccato feel. Or we can make them really smooth. No gaps at all and playing a bit quieter. We could attack them and do a long note and then a short note. Make it interesting. What you're trying to do is get your fingers familiar with the scale. And they don't want to be familiar with playing it in a boring way. Make them familiar with playing it in an interesting way. Why not slide into some notes? Make it more musical. So if you put a groove on, make your playing sound interesting. Change the key a bit so you're not stuck on the same key. Go down to an E here. Changing the rhythm a bit. Let's put some variations in the rhythm. Some fast bits. Slow, fast. Slow, fast. So find a way to make your playing a bit more fun to do. Every time you play this, your fingers are getting more familiar with it. But it's got to be fun, and I want you to start making music with it. Scales by themselves are not much fun. So level 4 is starting to break the rules a bit, make it musical. Level 5, a scale is a scale, but it will always sound like a scale if you play it in the same order. So change the order of the notes. You could pick notes at random, or give yourself a little bit more structure. Allow yourself to break the rules just a little bit. Maybe we could go 3 notes up the scale, and then down 1, and then 3 notes up, and then down 1. And suddenly it's a lot more interesting to listen to. Or maybe we could go 4 notes up and then down 1. I'm adding some extra notes on the top there just to kind of finish it off. Come back down again. These ones are starting to get tricky now. They will really make sure that your fingers know where they're going next. If you can play that, you probably know the scale pretty well. So get practicing. One of my personal favourites is to play the note, then miss a note, and then play the next note, and then go back and play the note that I missed. And you jump around in the scale like this. That's a really good exercise for any scale you want to play, not just the major scale. Break it up a bit, break the rules, put on a drum beat, do some variations with the rhythm. Let's take it off the shuffle, let's put something on a bit more rocky and do some variations. But you don't have to follow any particular pattern. Maybe we can get halfway up and then come back down. Combine the ideas together. Start playing around with the scale. You can use it in any order, in any rhythm, with any accompaniment track of the rhythm, and suddenly you're not playing a scale anymore, you are improvising. The world may never have heard that melody before. I just wrote that. It's not fully songwriting, but you are writing melodies. When you are improvising around a scale, you're playing what note you feel like you should play next. There is no right or wrong answer. If it sounds good to you, it is right. So you are now able to use the scale to start to improvise. It's easy to improvise with a rhythmic backing track because you don't get any wrong notes. You can play in any key you like, but the next level of playing scales will be to pick the right key for it. So, level 6. The final level we're going to play today is going to be to play with an already existing piece of music. So you need to know for this what key the music is in. I'm going to play a piece of music that's in the key of F, So I'm going to use an F major scale to improvise with. There is my F note, 5th fret on the C string. And all I'm going to do now is exactly what we just did. I'm going to break the rules a bit. I'm not going to play the scale in order, but I am going to only play the notes from the scale. But I can play them fast, slow, out of order, stopping halfway, coming back down. Any order I like. Anything you can do is allowed. But give yourself some limits so you're not completely exposed to what do I play next? Say, okay, I'm going to play it up and down, and then I'm going to play it fast up and down, and then I'm going to play it slow up and down, and then I'm going to play 3 notes up, 1 down, 3 notes up. Think about what you're playing and then let your fingers take over. So this is the piece of music I'm going to play. And this is actually by my band, Nico Fur. So enjoy. This is Cold Shock by Nico Fur. Here it goes. That was 6 different levels of making friends with the major scale. If you followed along all the way to level 6, then you should be pretty familiar with where we started. You can now play in any key, in any rhythm, break the rules, and you can play along with an external rhythm source, and you can, more importantly, you can play along with other music. Well done, you've made friends with the major scale. It is now a tool that you can use to make music, and that's what scales are. They are not any good on their own. They're just like having a really good hammer and a really good saw and a really good drill hanging on the wall of your garage. By themselves, they're useful but not beautiful, but they can be used to make beautiful things. So make friends with the scale and make something beautiful with it. Hope you've enjoyed this. We'll do some more ukulele techniques another time. See you again soon.